Husband cheated while I was pregnant, then took our newborn baby without permission to meet his girlfriend. So I took them to court, and now they're paying the price. Hello Reddit, I never thought I'd be writing this, but here I am, sharing the worst betrayal of my life. My husband, the man I loved and trusted, destroyed our family in the cruelest way imaginable. He cheated on me while I was pregnant, humiliated me, and then, after our son was born, did something even more unthinkable. But I fought back. I made sure he and his mistress faced the consequences of their actions. This is my story. I was 7 months pregnant when my world shattered. That day, I had a doctor's appointment in the morning, followed by a prenatal yoga class. Brian, my husband, had insisted he was too busy with work to come along. I didn't argue. I had stopped expecting him to be involved weeks ago. His distance, his coldness, it had become my new reality. After yoga, I felt exhausted and decided to skip the lunch I had planned with a friend. Instead, I drove home, looking forward to a quiet afternoon resting. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The living room smelled like my vanilla-scented candles, but I hadn't lit them that morning. The soft hum of music drifted down the hallway. My bedroom door was slightly open. I walked in, and there he was. Brian, my husband, the father of my unborn child, in our bed with another woman. I stood frozen in the doorway, my heart hammering so loudly I could barely hear anything else. My chest tightened, my breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, to cry, to do something, but I was paralyzed. Brian noticed me first. He barely had the decency to look guilty. But she just smirked. She didn't scramble for the sheets, didn't cover herself in embarrassment. No. She stretched lazily, rolling onto her side like she belonged there, like she had nothing to be ashamed of. Oops, she said, not even trying to sound sorry. Then, as if to twist the knife deeper, she sat up, wearing my nightdress. My favorite one. The one Brian had bought me on our honeymoon. My stomach churned. Get out, I whispered, my voice shaking. She just laughed. Relax, sweetheart. Stress isn't good for the baby. I clenched my fists. I said get the hell out of my house. Brian finally spoke. Emily, don't, I cut him off, shaking my head. Don't you dare. But Vanessa wasn't done. You know, I actually feel kinda bad for you, she said, standing up slowly. Brian told me you were letting yourself go during pregnancy, but I didn't think it was this bad. Her eyes flicked to my belly, disgust flickering across her face. No wonder he got bored. I felt like I had been punched. Tears burned in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not in front of her. Not in front of him. Instead of denying it, instead of trying to apologize, Brian sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. I didn't want you to find out this way, he muttered, running a hand through his hair. I let out a bitter laugh. Oh! And how exactly did you want me to find out? He had the audacity to look annoyed. Emily, I'm not going to pretend anymore. Things haven't been good between us. Ever since you got pregnant, things have changed. You've changed. My blood ran cold. What the hell does that mean? I don't feel the same way about you, he admitted. I've tried, but I just don't. Vanessa makes me happy. I didn't want to do this until after the baby was born, but maybe it's better this way. Better? Better? I took a step back, my whole body trembling. You were planning to leave me? Brian exhaled, as if my devastation was an inconvenience. Emily, I didn't want to hurt you, but what? My voice cracked. You wanted to have your fun while I carried your child, and then leave me once I was done being useful? His silence was my answer. Vanessa sighed dramatically. Can we wrap this up? I have things to do. I snapped. Get out! My voice was steel. Brian frowned. Emily, be reasonable. Get out of my house, Brian. I screamed. Both of you. Vanessa smirked. Fine. I was getting bored anyway. She grabbed her purse and strolled out, not a single ounce of shame. Brian lingered. Emily, I know you're mad, but we need to talk. I stormed to the closet, grabbed his clothes, and started throwing them onto the floor. There's nothing to talk about, I seethed. You don't love me? Fine. You want to be with her? Fine, but you don't get to betray me and stay under my roof. He stepped forward. Emily, I didn't let him finish. I grabbed my phone and dialed. Who are you calling? He asked warily. I locked eyes with him. A lawyer. Brian paled. Come on, don't pack your things, I cut him off. Because after today, you're never stepping foot in this house again. His mouth opened like he wanted to argue, but then he saw something in my face, something that told him I wasn't bluffing. Without another word, he grabbed his keys and left. The moment the door slammed shut behind him, I collapsed onto the floor, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. But I wasn't just crying over the betrayal. I was crying because I knew this was only the beginning. For months, I had believed that walking in on my husband cheating was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I was wrong. Nothing could have prepared me for what Brian did next. After the divorce was finalized, I focused on preparing for my baby's arrival. I refused to let Brian's betrayal steal the joy of becoming a mother. My son deserved love, stability, and a home free of toxicity. I was determined to give him that. When my son, Oliver, was finally born, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, pure, unshakable love. Holding him in my arms, staring at his tiny fingers wrapped around mine, I knew that nothing else mattered. Not Brian, not the pain he caused, just my baby. Legally, Brian still had rights as Oliver's father, but given his past behavior, I made sure his involvement was limited. Supervised visits only. I didn't trust him, and I had every reason not to. Turns out, I wasn't cautious enough. It happened when Oliver was barely a week old. I was still in the hospital recovering from a difficult birth. My mom had gone home to rest, promising to return later. I was exhausted but happy, soaking in every moment with my son. Then a nurse walked in, her expression unreadable. Ms. Carter, she said carefully, Oliver's father came to visit. I tensed immediately. He's not supposed to be alone with the baby. The nurse hesitated. He said he had your permission to take Oliver to meet some family. My blood turned to ice. I sat up so fast that pain ripped through my body, but I didn't care. Where's my son? The nurse's face fell. He left. I couldn't breathe. Oliver was gone. Brian had taken him. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking so violently I could barely dial. Brian answered on the second ring. Where's my baby? My voice was barely human, more like a desperate animal's cry. His response was cold. Too calm. Relax, Emily. He's with me. My entire body went numb. You took my son without my permission. Where is he? A second voice, her voice cut in. Oh, stop being so dramatic. I felt sick. Vanessa. She giggled, and I nearly lost it. She was holding my child. I don't see what the big deal is, Vanessa continued. Brian and I are raising him now. You should be thanking us. I thought I was going to vomit. My stomach twisted violently, and my vision blurred. You have no right. Emily, listen, Brian said, sounding exasperated, as if I was the one being unreasonable. Vanessa and I talked, and we agreed it's best if Oliver grows up with two parents who actually love each other. He deserves a stable home, not whatever mess you're living in. I couldn't even form words. The sheer audacity, the pure evil of what they had done, it shattered me. Don't worry, Vanessa added sweetly. We'll take good care of him. I screamed into the phone. You bring my son back right now, or I swear to God, Brian sighed. I think it's best if we take some time to figure things out. You're clearly too emotional right now. Then he hung up. The world tilted. This wasn't real. This couldn't be happening. I dialed again. Straight to voicemail. I called again. And again. Nothing. I couldn't breathe. My baby, my newborn, gone. I stumbled out of bed, ignoring the shooting pain in my body. I barely made it to the hallway before collapsing against the wall, clutching my chest. I needed to get to Oliver. I needed to find him. I needed to save him. A nurse rushed over. Ms. Carter, are you okay? I couldn't think. I couldn't function. My baby, I gasped. He took my baby. She didn't hesitate. I'm calling security. But security wasn't enough. I needed more. With shaking hands, I dialed 911. The second the dispatcher answered, I blurted out, "My ex-husband kidnapped my baby. He took him without permission. He's only a week old. Please, you have to help me." The woman's voice was calm, controlled. "Where was your son last seen?" "The hospital," I choked out. He just took him. "I don't know where they are." "Stay on the line, ma'am," she said. "We're dispatching officers now." I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles went white. I could barely hear the dispatcher's next words over the roaring in my ears. Brian and Vanessa had stolen my child. I had no idea where they were. No idea what they were planning. But there was one thing I knew for certain: I would do whatever it took to get my son back. I never knew fear like the moment I realized my baby was gone. But fear quickly turned to rage. A kind of rage I had never felt before, one that burned through my veins, stronger than the exhaustion, stronger than the heartbreak. Brian had stolen my child. I was going to make him pay. The police took my call seriously. A newborn had been taken by a man who no longer had unrestricted parental rights. That was kidnapping. Within hours, officers located Brian at his apartment, with Vanessa holding my son. I was still at the hospital when they called me, my body weak but my mind racing. When I heard Oliver was safe, I broke down in tears, half relief, half fury. Brian, however, he was indignant. "They're acting like I committed some crime," he scoffed when I called him after the police took Oliver from his home and placed him back in my custody. "I'm his father, Emily. I have every right to see him. You took him without permission." I shrieked. "I was recovering in a hospital, and you stole my child, then handed him over to her." Vanessa, as usual, was completely remorseless. She made a dramatic show of sighing. "God, Emily, you're acting insane. We were just spending time with him. You're blowing this way out of proportion." I was done. "You're both going to pay for this," I promised, my voice shaking with fury. Brian actually laughed. "For what? Being a father? You're overreacting. The police will realize that soon enough." He was so sure he was untouchable. So sure he had done nothing wrong. He was about to get the wake-up call of his life. I wasted no time. The next morning, I contacted my lawyer and we filed charges. Parental kidnapping. Child endangerment. Violating the custody agreement. The moment Brian realized how serious the charges were, the begging started. "Emily, please," he whined over the phone. "You don't really want me to go to jail, do you?" "You should have thought about that before you took my baby," I snapped. His excuses poured out like a broken faucet. I wasn't thinking clearly. I just missed Oliver. Vanessa convinced me it would be fine. I thought we could work something out. Now he was blaming Vanessa. Typical. "You stole a newborn," I said coldly. "You don't get to walk away from this." He tried everything. First, it was apologizing. Then it was guilt-tripping. Then threats. "You'll regret this," he growled. "Taking a baby from his father? The judge is gonna see you for what you really are, a bitter, vindictive woman." I didn't care. Let the courts decide. Brian actually had the audacity to try and play the victim. "She's out for revenge," he told the judge, his voice oozing self-pity. "This is all because I moved on. She's using our son to punish me." Vanessa, sitting smugly beside him, piled on. "She's crazy, Your Honor. She's been unstable ever since she got pregnant. This is just some hormonal outburst." I clenched my fists. Of course, they were trying to make me seem hysterical. But they underestimated me. My lawyer laid out the facts, cold and brutal. Brian took a newborn from his legal guardian without permission. He handed the baby over to his girlfriend, someone with zero legal rights to the child. He ignored my frantic calls and only returned Oliver when police intervened. The judge's face hardened. He wasn't buying Brian's sob story. "Mr. Carter," the judge said, "this is not a custody dispute. This is a criminal matter." Brian paled. And then, the verdict came down. Brian was found guilty of parental kidnapping and child endangerment. His punishment? Probation, mandatory parenting classes, and supervised visitation only. But Vanessa? She wasn't even Oliver's parent, so she had no parental rights to begin with. The judge issued a restraining order against her. She was furious. "This is ridiculous," she shrieked in the courtroom. "We didn't do anything wrong." The judge barely spared her a glance. "Ms. Martinez, you have no legal standing here. Stay away from the child." For the first time since this nightmare started, I could breathe again. 6 months passed. Oliver was growing fast, healthy, and happy. My mother moved in to help me, and together, we built a stable, loving home for my son. Brian? He made a few half-hearted attempts to see Oliver, but I ignored him. He was nothing more than a supervised visitor now. No power, no control. And Vanessa? Gone. The restraining order made sure of that. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. Brian still tried to weasel his way back in. He sent pathetic texts like, "Can we talk? I miss Oliver. I made a mistake, but I'm still his father. Vanessa's out of my life now. We can fix this." I ignored them all. He had his chance to be a father. He threw it away. I never heard from Vanessa again. She lost. She probably thought she could play happy family with my child. Instead, she got a restraining order and a ruined reputation. I doubted she ever really loved Brian. She just loved taking from me. Now? She had nothing. I won't pretend I'm completely over it. The betrayal still lingers, and sometimes I think about how close I came to losing my baby. But I refuse to let that pain define me. My son is safe, happy, loved. And as for Brian and Vanessa, they got exactly what they deserved. I won, and I will never, never let them hurt my child again.